Hi, today's going to be a little bit different since we're covering a tragic tale rather than a mystery, or even a cult, that of the Heart Family Massacre. This journey begins in the sparsely populated state of South Dakota, what some would consider the middle of flyover country. And it is in a small town in South Dakota where this story begins to unfold, starting with Jennifer Hart and Sarah Hart. Jennifer hailed from the city of Huron, while Sarah's roots lie just outside of Big Stone City. However, these cities were not like New York, Austin, or Miami. They were significantly smaller. However, there is one through line between these two. Sarah and Jennifer share strikingly similar backgrounds. Both were the eldest in their families who were raised in rural settings and graduated from high school with rather good grades, so it was expected of them to have a bright future. And it was not until they were in the echelons of higher education that they would coincidentally meet. This was due to them both wishing to become school teachers. Sarah, however, specifically wanted to become a teacher for special ed students, which led them to enroll in Northern State University in Aberdeen, South Dakota. This was after making a switch from their previous institutions of higher learning, and this was where the groundwork for the tragedy of the Heart Family Massacre was laid. It was all the way back in 1999 when Jennifer and Sarah first crossed paths. This was due to them following the same career path. However, little did they realize that their connection would develop from classmates to friends and eventually to lovers. However, feeling the weight of societal norms at the time, they would keep their relationship under wraps, confiding only in their inner circle of friends and passing their relationship off to others as a mere friendship. However, life would eventually throw them a curveball when Jennifer had to drop out of university prematurely, leaving Sarah all on her lonesome. This was a rather major setback for the duo. However, Sarah would power through and earn her degree in special education, and it would not be until after their graduation that the couple would come out openly. Unfortunately, it wasn't all rainbows and sunshine, and they did face some backlash, losing quite a few friends along the way, yet they remained undeterred and declared their love for each other publicly. With graduation behind them and their relationship out in the open, they embarked on the next chapter of their lives. This duo would make a move to Alexandria, a town nestled within the state of Minnesota, and they were both able to land jobs at a department store rather quickly. And it is here where Sarah began to climb the ranks from employee to manager at an incredibly rapid pace. All the while, Jennifer found a rather comfortable niche in the junior section. Supposedly, their workdays were fairly routine, which led the duo's demeanors to be rather noticeable to their coworkers. Where Sarah was calm, measured, and controlled, Jennifer's coworkers would often describe her as bold and even somewhat abrasive, and it seems it was due to these differences that the duo were able to find a harmonious balance in their relationship, complementing each other's strengths and weaknesses. Later, when they reached their mid-20s, they began to feel a bit restless, feeling that their lives were becoming more and more listless. It was here where they would look to an outside resource to bring a new spark to their lives. In particular, they would apply for adoption. For Jennifer and Sarah, this step represented the next big change in their lives. Their solid employment, coupled with their high education and their energetic natures, they were ideal candidates for adoption. In 2014, their application was approved, and they welcomed a 15-year-old foster daughter into their home. Their intent was to provide love, support, and guidance until she was ready to leave the home at the age of 18. Depending on how you look at things, this could be seen as the beginning of the end. The new addition to the family was a teenage girl by the name of Lee, and at the beginning it brought a wave of excitement and enjoyment into the lives of Sarah and Jennifer. Within the initial months, they dove headfirst into parenthood. As time passed, whispers began to ruminate amongst their own social circle, as individuals who knew them observed a growing discontent and harsh criticisms that were being constantly directed at Lee. Allegations would eventually surface that Jennifer and Sarah were neglecting their parental responsibilities, some even going as far as to spread rumors about Lee's supposed habits, including but not limited to scavenging for food from garbage cans. And this accusation seemed to reflect rather poorly on the foster parents, rather than being an indictment on the teenage girl. However, despite the rumored waning enthusiasm for the child they were fostering, Jennifer and Sarah decided to expand their family even further, as they welcomed a brother and sister duo into their family. and it seemed quickly that they decided they wanted to adopt a fourth child, this time from a pregnant mother. However, upon returning home from their initial visit, it is claimed the tensions began to broil over, and there are some who claim that the children that they were adopting were essentially an attempt to patch underlying issues within their relationship. However, Sarah and Jennifer eagerly would share photos of the ever-expanding family with Lee, hoping to instigate some modicum of excitement with her. However, despite their enthusiasm, Lee's response seemed lackluster. Just a week later, she would find herself dropped off for what she believed was just a routine therapy session. Little did she know that Jen and Sarah had made the decision to leave her behind, without so much as a goodbye or an explanation, in essence destroying any sense of stability the child may have had. Fast forward to 2006, Jennifer and Sarah had officially welcomed 3 new additions into their lives through adoption. Abigail, a 2-year-old bundle of energy, joined the faces of 4-year-old Hannah and 7-year-old Marcus. And here once more the family dynamics shifted, and as it just so happens, Jennifer took to Facebook to document their journey. From their chaotic first night together, it was a rather unconventional first view into the family. This unfiltered glimpse into the realities of this familial unit seemed to portray an honest attempt at forming a family. The rollercoaster of their first night together as a family painted a vivid picture of all the challenges it seemed Jennifer and Sarah faced. Despite them describing their children as unruly and troubled, Jennifer would remain steadfast in her commitment to nurturing and healing them. Yet 2 years later, the couple found themselves desiring to expand their family once more, and once again, their application for adoption was greenlit in the spring of 2008, where they welcomed 3 new arrivals: 5-year-old Devante, 4-year-old Jeremiah, and 3-year-old Sarah. With the addition of these young souls, cracks began to become more and more evident in the family's dynamic. Later that same year, a rather distressing incident would unfold when the couple was summoned to the school of one of their children in regards to allegations of abuse. Hannah, one of their daughters, had turned up with bruises on her legs, which sparked concerns amongst teachers. When she was questioned, Hannah would disclose that one of her mothers had disciplined her with a belt. This revelation sent shockwaves through the family and the community alike. Following this alarming incident at school, Jennifer and Sarah found themselves in a rather indefensible position, where they had to claim that while they were attentive parents, they were completely ignorant of the visible bruises on Hannah's legs. They suggested perhaps she had sustained them while playing, and it appears no charges were filed. However, this incident left a looming cloud of suspicion hanging over the family. Soon afterwards, all their children would be withdrawn from school, only to be re-enrolled after social services intervened. Undeterred by controversy, Jennifer continued to share glimpses of their unconventional family life on social media, and the family currently consisted of 2 mothers and 6 children. As this was going on, Sarah remained working in retail to provide financial support for the family, while Jennifer assumed the role of primary caregiver to the children. Orchestrating outings, these events were characterized by music, dance, yoga, and other activities. These would often span several days, providing the family with opportunities to be seen as bonding and experiencing growth. In 2013, they decided to seek a more accepting community elsewhere, while there would be suspicions that they were moving away in order to obscure any potential neglect. However, another one of the stated reasons they moved was to be closer to their favorite musicians. The family would then uproot from Minnesota and relocate to Oregon. This move marked a new chapter in the family's journey, one where they would finally embrace their unique dynamic in an environment which they believed would welcome them with open arms. Shortly after settling into their new home in Oregon, Jennifer and Sarah decided to tie the knot officially, with Sarah adopting Jennifer's last name. With this milestone, Jennifer's online presence flourished, with her social media feed becoming a hub which showcased their family life. From the snapshots of their adventures at festivals, supposedly heartwarming moments in their garden, Jennifer would curate a feed displaying supposed warmth. Her posts largely focused on holistic values centered on love, acceptance, and community. painting a picture of a perfect family who upheld strong values, whether it was attending festivals, joining in rallies, or participating in protests. The Harts appeared to be a tight-knit family dedicated to making a difference in the world. Jennifer's carefully curated and controlled narrative garnered widespread admiration and support, with the public lauding the couple as saviors of their adopted children and holding them up as the epitome of a flawless family. However, despite this idyllic image portrayed online, a myriad of cracks began to emerge in the Hart's family facade. Government records would paint a starkly different picture from the carefully curated content shared on social media. Concerns arose at the children's schools, where bruises were constantly noted on their bodies, and reports surfaced of them being confined indoors without food for prolonged periods of time, to the point that they were resorting to stealing from classmates in order to satisfy their hunger. The situation took an even darker turn when Abigail revealed allegations of abuse. She would claim that Jennifer accused her of theft, subjecting her to punishments of forcefully dunking her head in cold water before striking her repetitively. However, before any thorough investigation could be launched, all 6 children were once again pulled out of school, and the family transitioned to homeschooling rather quickly. As whispers of misconduct circulated, whistleblowers within the community took action, reaching out to child protection services in order to voice their concerns about the children's welfare. This led to people noticing the stark contrast between the family's public persona and the troubling reality. Amidst mounting concerns, allegations surfaced that Jen operated her household much like a boot camp, instilling a deep-rooted fear in the children. A rather disturbing revelation would emerge regarding food deprivation, with reports suggesting that Jennifer withheld meals as a form of conduct control, only rewarding them with food if they complied with her demands to pose for Facebook photos, much like you would when you're training a dog, reducing the children almost to animals. Photographers who collaborated with the family corroborated these unsettling details, describing how the children's demeanor shifted from forced smiles during photoshoots to a sense of misery and lifelessness once the camera stopped rolling. Child Protective Services delved deeper into the matter as they conducted independent interviews with the children. And despite their initial denials about abuse, their accounts revealed eerily similar patterns, raising suspicions that Jennifer's online portrayal of their family was indeed a facade designed to cover up the abuse. Those close to the family began to question the authenticity of their carefully curated image shared on social media. In 2014, the family was catapulted into the spotlight when a photo of Devante went viral. This photo was dubbed Hugging Boy, after embracing a police officer at a protest. Devante's act of compassion captured global attention, garnering notable coverage from major news outlets. This further fueled Jennifer's thirst for attention. However, by 2016, Jennifer's once active social media accounts fell silent, marking a stark departure from her previously exceedingly public image and desire for attention. In a surprising turn of events, Jennifer would resurface once again on social media in 2017, asserting that their unconventional lifestyle was simply misunderstood. During their absence, they made a strategic move to Woodland, Washington, a decision prompted by escalating tensions between them and Child Protective Services. Determined to avoid detection, they relocated quietly to a spacious farmhouse in the Washington countryside. As Jen resumed her Facebook updates, once again showing idealistic images of their new life, a dark reality of abuse would continue behind the scenes. In the midst of this facade, a harrowing incident would unfold. On a warm July night, 15-year-old Hannah Hart, overwhelmed by the ongoing abuse, made a desperate escape, fleeing through her bedroom window in order to seek refuge in her neighbor's house. Said neighbors were Donna and Brewster Cab, and they were awakened by Hannah's desperate pleas. As they found her on their doorstep, hungry and terrified, she begged them vehemently not to be taken back home. Shortly thereafter, the cacophony of the Hart's family's frantic calls reportedly echoed throughout the night. as they searched for Hannah. Unsurprisingly, Jennifer attempted to dismiss Hannah's accusations as mere attention-seeking behavior. This is a disturbing pattern of denial and manipulation which had been evident ever since their first child was adopted. In the wake of Hannah's desperate escape, concerned neighbors wasted no time alerting CPS to the alarming situation unfolding. A worried caller recounted the chilling events that they had witnessed to the Child Protective Services operator, expressing a deep and urgent concern for the well-being of the children in the household. Their statement went as follows: "Yeah, there's some kids that I feel are being highly abused. Okay, I'm going to give you the address of my daughter's house because it's right next door." This conversation would unfold and further describe how Hannah had leaped from a second-story window onto the roof and then onto the ground before seeking refuge at the caller's daughter's home. "My daughter and son-in-law let them know she was there, and then she had all 4 kids come back later," the caller explained. "They were standing at attention, like they were just scared to death, and I think there's something very serious going on there. I'm very concerned for the kids." The gravity of the situation would prompt Child Protective Services into action. Said actions would ultimately uncover the disturbing truth behind the idyllic facade, breaking the Hart's family seemingly picturesque lifestyle. The day after Hannah's disappearance and plea for help, the concerned neighbors would receive an unexpected letter of apology, supposedly penned by Hannah herself. However, the tone, the style, and the language used within the letter seemed rather at odds with that of a typical 15-year-old. And despite their reluctance to meddle in their neighbors' affairs, Donna could not shake the discomfort caused by the incident. In response, she would discreetly monitor the family's activities, noting unsettling observations in her diary. She observed the children being kept indoors with the blinds drawn and an alarming scarcity of food, along with physical signs of malnourishment amongst them. Not long after, another child would seek refuge at their doorstep, this time using a more subtle method of asking for assistance. Expressing their desire for food, Devante requested that they leave a care package at the edge of their property, out of sight from his parents. Devante would go on to corroborate Hannah's claims of abuse and implored the neighbors to contact social services. Deeply troubled by the situation, social services took swift action. On March 18, 2018, they would mobilize a response team and marched straight to the Hart's family's residence, as they were now poised to intervene due to all the mounting evidence and allegations of abuse. However, upon their arrival, they found the Hart's family eerily quiet. There was no response at the door. 3 days later, upon returning to the scene, they were met with a troubling series of signs. The driveway, once occupied by the family's truck, now lay empty. Debris and cinder blocks littered the entirety of the area, and it seemed to be evidence of a swift and hasty departure, which resulted in their vehicle crashing through a small wall. Donna's unease now deepened as she pieced together the abrupt exit, and while she had suspected the family was fleeing, the suddenness of their departure seemed to catch her off guard. 2 days prior, on March 24th, 2018, Sarah and Jennifer hastily gathered their 6 adopted children into the family truck, under the guise of a spontaneous road trip. Although impromptu getaways were not uncommon for the family, this departure would be starkly different. Jennifer assumed the driver's seat as she sped away, crashing through the wall hastily. Another hint at the strangeness of this event was the fact that there were no social media updates documenting their journey, which was a stark departure from Jennifer's usual addiction to sharing their adventures online. However, their phone signals would eventually be traced to a path along coastal roads, confirming their route, as they journeyed from Washington through Oregon and into California. During their journey, the Hart family made several stops at service and gas stations in order to purchase food. However, they insisted on keeping their children inside the car at all times, and ensuring they weren't spotted by anyone. On March 25th, the day before social services would return to the now deserted home for a follow-up, a surveillance camera would capture Jennifer at a Safeway Later, the couple stopped at a Walmart in California, where Sarah would go on to purchase a large bottle of Benadryl before quickly absconding back to the car, as she discreetly added Benadryl to their sandwiches while preparing food. Now notably 19-year-old Mark would receive the highest dosage of approximately 20 pills. All the while this was happening, Jennifer would exhibit further unusual behavior, indulging in drinking several alcoholic beverages, which was a departure from the norm that would have raised eyebrows, as she typically was not a heavy drinker, or at least this was what was portrayed online. During their journey, the children would notably remain without their seatbelts, their senses and minds cloudy with confusion and drowsiness. The family truck would eventually come to a halt, but then this quietude would be shattered when she pressed her foot on the gas and accelerated towards a 100-foot cliff. At approximately 4:15 p.m. on March 26, 2018, authorities would receive reports of a car wreck at the base of a cliff near Westport. Police and fire officials would rush to the scene, where they found an overturned vehicle submerged in the water. Drifting in the tides were the lifeless bodies of Abigail, Jeremiah, and Marcus Hart. Upon lifting the vehicle, they discovered a pair of adult bodies, bringing the total fatality count at the time to 5 of the family members. All the victims would be noted to have suffered severe blunt force trauma, and the circumstances would leave little to no room for any ambiguity. It was apparent that Sarah and Jennifer had deliberately taken it upon themselves to drive off the cliff. In the aftermath of this heartbreaking incident, the community grappled over the grief and loss of 6 innocent children. Despite the tragic outcome, there were those who still held some glimmer of hope that the 3 remaining children had survived. Missing persons report would circulate in order to attempt to find Hannah, Sierra, and Devontae Hart. However, hope would be dashed quickly when Sierra's body was discovered floating near the crash site just 2 weeks later. Months would pass and authorities would eventually find a small foot, which led to its positive identification of being Hannah Hart's foot, meaning she had died. However, Devontae's remains had not been found, but it's likely he was just swept into the sea and devoured by the animals therein. Initially, authorities would consider this a tragic accident, maybe a brake failure, driver fatigue. They weren't sure, because the absurdity of the event. However, evidence strongly suggested otherwise, which led to officials believing these were deliberate actions by Jennifer and Sarah. One crucial piece of evidence was the absence of skid marks at the crash site, indicating that the vehicle had not attempted to brake or swerve to a stop, but rather continued to accelerate. This would be corroborated by data from the truck, which revealed a brief stop followed by a rapid acceleration just before collision. While it took months to recover all the bodies, the investigation into what happened commenced immediately, and investigators would delve deep into the lives of the Hart family, where they found a household devoid of childhood joys. Inside the home, there were no signs that 6 children had ever lived there. No toys, no games, no form of entertainment. The frames adorning the walls and the mantel were all empty. Autopsies would later conclude that all except one of the children were severely malnourished, leading to their bodies resembling that of children of much younger ages. This clearly showed that the idyllic holistic lifestyle portrayed by Jennifer online was nothing but a facade, a cruel and detestable charade, meaning that the children were groomed and paraded for the couple's own gratification and self-aggrandizement, only to be neglected until they were required to perform to standards once again. In an ironic twist of fate, Jennifer's maddening desire to portray herself as a good mother and as a pillar of her community led her to become one of the most infamous cases of maternal neglect, to the point that her name is now infamous worldwide. The reason why these 2 women ended the lives of 6 innocent children still remains elusive. However, what we do know is that they were under scrutiny by Child Protective Services, along with being under financial pressures from raising such a large family. Yet under no circumstances should this have led to such a tragic outcome. If they felt so overwhelmed by the responsibility of caring for so many children, the chosen solution was not the right one, by any means. That, along with the fact that their actions leading up to the tragic event were far from innocent, the sad reality is that all 6 victims were failed not just by the system meant to protect them from the evil actions of Jennifer and Sarah, but by the very people who were meant to offer guidance, safety, and familial love. It is undoubtable that if Child Protective Services had intervened earlier, things would likely have taken a severely different turn. While Jennifer and Sarah presented themselves as caring individuals eager to support those in need, simple intervention and any amount of scrutiny would have sussed out their true intent. While they managed to maintain this facade initially, their final actions have forever tainted their reputations and the reputations of those who vouched for them as neglectful, manipulative monsters pretending to be parents. It is truly tragic that these 6 children became ensnared in their sick and twisted machinations of self-aggrandizement. And while this case may be difficult to grapple with, and life is most definitely unfair, the truth is, unfortunately, the story has no happy ending, as it now only functions as a cautionary tale. If you remained with me until the end, I thank you, and I do hope you stay tuned and subscribe for more content.